Welcome back to the Midlife Muscle Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Atlas, and today's great guest is Kalene Walsh.
Thank you.
Walsh, right?
Yes.
Thank you for making
Thank
it.
you.
We've been
Thank
trying
you
to
for
line
having
this
me.
up for like 3, 4, 5 weeks
I know,
now, right?
schedules are bananas,
Yes.
but I'm glad we
Today's
made
the
it
day.
happen.
Thank you for making it.
Thank you for
appreciate it.
inviting me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, so you're going to want to stay tuned because not only is this still a vegetarian athlete going to share how she has so much balanced muscle while being vegetarian, she's also going to nominate a future guest. She's got at least one really good question for me, right? And then she's going to share at least one social media channel, maybe a website where you can go connect with her, follow her, learn more about her and her services and what she does. So stay tuned for that. And without further ado, we're going to get into it. You ready?
Great. Yeah.
All right. So let's do a quick, short intro of who this lady is, like 3 to 5 sentences. Age, marital status, mom status, pet mom status, whatever. Just give it to us.
My name is Kalene Walsh. I'm 43. I'm married. We have a 9-year-old boy. His name is Cash. We have 2 fur babies, Dougie and Kiki.
Nice.
I've been a personal trainer for 20 years. This is my 20th year. I own my own personal training company. It's called KW Fitness.
All right.
And I'm lucky enough to get to do what I love every day.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's perfect. Thank you. All right. So 20 years, look like you're double certified NASM, ACE, certified personal trainer. You're still actively training people.
Yeah.
43 years young. Hence, she's on the Midlife Muscle Podcast. Speaking of that, if you're listening to this on audio, you're going to want to come see the video version because that's where the really good stuff happens. So the shortcut to that is midlifemusclepodcast.com. That takes you right to the YouTube podcast video channel. So once you get there, be sure to share it with a friend or two and let us know you're here watching. Let us know. There's a comment section for you to use. All right, so Kalene, let's go back to your childhood. Where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Plymouth, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Probably never heard of it. It's in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire.
It's probably really nice up there.
It's beautiful. It's in the White Mountains. As a kid, I don't think I appreciated it at all.
Right.
I just couldn't wait to get to Boston. But yeah, the White Mountains, I think I was on skis by the time I was 3. Had a great childhood. Beautiful place to grow up. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. Speaking of fur babies, a little aside, those of you watching on video, you will see my co-host, Yanko, the standard American bulldog, is here with me. He's laying down. He loves Miss Kalene. He was giving her lots of love and wagging his tail and kissing her legs and licking her knees.
I love him.
He's good. He's good.
So good.
All right. So, from Plymouth, where did you personally go next? Like, where did your childhood take you?
So I grew up in Plymouth. We used to spend the summers in Cape Cod. So we would drive through Boston in the middle of the night to avoid the Cape Cod traffic. Because if you're watching this and you're from up north, you know exactly that Sagamore Bridge is no joke. And I just remember from as young as I can remember driving through Boston and my eyes would just be like this big. I thought Boston was the biggest, best city in the world. And I just knew from a really young age, like as soon as I can get out of this little town, I'm getting out. So that was my next step. I went to college at Northeastern.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up in Boston.
All right. And then what was your personal path into fitness, like you yourself?
Yeah. So kind of an interesting story. So I went to Northeastern and was majoring in public relations, which was categorized under like a journalism major there. And really wasn't a kid who knew what I wanted to do. Just kind of picked public relations because it sounded like a good idea, And I was at the gym working out one day, and I would just go to the gym and I'd get on the treadmill because I was the skinniest fat person you have ever met.
All right. So college years, all you're doing is going and getting on the treadmill.
I'm doing cardio.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
And you considered yourself skinny fat back then?
Oh, I was. Yeah.
Body composition was way off.
Yeah. I weighed 98 pounds, but you could,
Really?
Yeah.
So to give people context, how tall are you?
I'm 5 feet.
Okay.
I weigh 122 now.
Right. And you were
literally between like 97 and 99 pounds back then.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would get on the treadmill though, because I was intimidated by these huge dudes that were in the weight room. And there were no girls, at least not in this gym back then.
Understood.
Yeah. And one of my really good friends, his name's Rolando. He was a professional bodybuilder and a personal trainer. And he came up to me one day and he's like, girl, with this thick Brazilian accent. I wish I could mimic it. But he's like, girl, why are you always on this treadmill? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm not going over there. Everybody over there looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm going to stay right here, you know? And he said to me, this day, he changed my life. He said to me, I want you to let me train you for free. And he was like, do everything I say. When we're done, if you feel comfortable, I want you to step on stage and compete in a bodybuilding show. I was literally like, who are you talking to? You're nuts. But I was like, sure. He clearly saw something in me back then that I didn't know I had.
Right.
And so I did everything he said, like down to the T. I was training twice a day, eating exactly what he told me to eat, and stepped on stage at New England Naturals, placed second overall and first for best poser.
Nice.
And that was
you
it.
were like, what, 20 years old?
I was 20. That was in 2004. I was in my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And he changed the whole course of my life.
That's awesome.
I started getting my first personal training certification before I even graduated Northeastern.
So did that experience like trigger you to like want to also make it a profession?
That experience changed everything. Yeah. I mean, I got up on that. There wasn't a single bit of nerves. I got on that stage like, everybody look at me. I loved it.
Right.
And I was hooked. Yeah. I never worked a day in PR. I graduated from Northeastern and started personal training right away.
Nice. And so you've been natural ever since? Yeah. So to give people context, you and I met at the gym. I think Brett started talking to you, and she's like, I just met Kalene. She's from up north. I was like, well, I'm going to talk to her. So I walked right over to you.
Yeah.
Like, right. So now I saw you before that. Like, this is one of the ways I'm meeting people in there is like, the way I describe it, the best way to describe it is like God will put like an invisible spotlight on certain people. And it's like, I got to talk to them at some point. And sure enough, every time I do, it's like, there's an awesome outcome. Like there's a good vibe in that person. Like even with you, like it was instantaneous. Like you're just good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. And so that day, like I knew Brett talking to you, that's my trigger to like go say hello and introduce myself. And like I saw you eventually being on this podcast.
Oh, that's so cool.
When I saw you training, I'm like, man, she's a little powerhouse. Like you're not too over the top. You got a great physique. You definitely like turn heads. Like you could see that, but you're not overwhelming. Like there's some female physiques out there that are like, yeah. It's like you have more of an athletic, aesthetically pleasing physique.
Oh, thank you.
Right? Oh, you're welcome. So, but again, make note, she's 5 feet tall. You do not look like you're a tiny 5 foot tall woman out in public. Like there's a larger presence about you. And part of it's your attitude, part of it's how you carry yourself, part of it is your physique as well. And I could see that. I'm like, yeah, she'd be a great person to have on. So again, thank you for following through. Much appreciated. I'm glad we did connect.
I was a gymnast for a big portion of my life, so I think I had
gymnast.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's not quickly pass over that. As a child, you were a gymnast?
Yeah. Throughout most of my life, I didn't do gymnastics in college, but I started when I was 3. Funny story. My mom said, I don't remember this, but my mom said she brought me to a ballet class. And you know how there was like the bar? Yeah. She said I kept on like flipping myself over on the bar when I was supposed to be like doing like plies, you know? And then they would do like floor work where I guess you're supposed to like, you know, leap or twirl. And I would like somersault and cartwheel. So I guess at the end of one of the classes, the teacher came up to her and like politely suggested that this wasn't for me.
Right.
And she put me in gymnastics, and I thrived. I loved it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think
That's
I
so
had a
good.
good base to start lifting,
Right.
you know, but
so
when
you
Rolando
did have
met
some
me,
body awareness, like before
yeah,
that, but not the specifics of training for development of the
right,
physique.
right. I mean, we were training for power, and,
Right.
yeah, but not for physique.
You ever have any injuries in gymnastics that you
I
remember?
broke 2 ribs.
How did that happen? Vaulting.
Yeah. I was really fast. So the faster you are, the further away your board is pulled from the vault. And so my board was far, but I was running, and I hit the board, and my right foot slipped off. So instead of going up and over, I just went into the vault and cracked these 2 ribs.
How long did it take for those to heal? Do you remember? Because
the next day was our 8th grade field trip, and we were hiking to the top of Mount Lafayette. This was like a full day hike in the White Mountains of New Hampshire in 8th grade. So we hiked to the top of Mount Lafayette, and then when you get there, there's this building that has like 10 bunk beds in like 5 rows, so 50 people can stay in this place. I'm like, I'm in 8th grade. I'm like, I'm not missing my 8th grade field trip. I hiked that mountain with 2 broken ribs. I don't remember how long it took to heal, but I just remember I wasn't missing that field trip.
Nice.
Yeah.
Does that still bother you today, or are they
No.
like totally healed? All right, cool.
Thank God.
All right, so after your personal experience and transformation, like the light bulb went off, you decide you're going to be a personal trainer, you get certified. After college, you started working right away in the field, like.
Yeah. So after I graduated from Northeastern, I actually ended up moving down to Tampa, Florida. And that was just like one of those spur of the moment decisions you make in your 20s where you're like, I'm sick of Boston winters. I'm just going to move to Florida. But I was lucky enough that I started at a gym. I got hired by a gym called Lifetime. And my coach, or the head personal trainer, was phenomenal. And he took me under his wing and taught me so much. We had such a good core group of trainers. So I worked there for about 3.5 years, and then decided to move back to Boston.
Okay.
When I moved back to Boston, I worked at Equinox. I worked at Equinox, but I trained at the Golds on Lansdowne Street because I liked all the meatheads at Golds.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
And then eventually, I've moved all over. Then I ended up in New Jersey. Right. Then I ended up in Manhattan, and then back in Jersey, and now here.
How did you end up here?
So my husband and I,
when we say here, people were talking about the first coast area of Florida, which is the eastern part of Jacksonville toward the beaches. Yeah. Jacksonville Beach, Ponte Vedra Beach, Atlantic Beach. We're actually recording this from Atlantic Beach, literally steps from the beach out there.
It's awesome. Yeah. So my husband and I were living in Hoboken, New Jersey. And 2020 happened. And Hoboken was the first city in the country to shut down their schools. And if you're not familiar with Hoboken, Hoboken is literally on the Hudson River. New York City is right in front of you.
Right.
So I called up my parents who live on acres and acres of land in New Hampshire. And I said, hey, they just shut down the schools. Can we come stay with you for a week? I think I packed enough clothes for 4 days. Long story short, if you are from the Northeast, you know how bad it was. We were shut down. And we were in New Hampshire for 6 months. Then we were back in Hoboken for maybe a month or 2 before things shut down again. And we ended up being at my parents' house for close to 9 months. And during that time, it was like the dead of winter in New Hampshire, which is just so cold and miserable. And I remember we were all sitting around having dinner, and my husband said, man, I wish we had like a vacation house in Florida that we could just like escape to right now. We were all like, yeah, we just thought he was just talking. Yeah. Well, unbeknownst to the rest of us, we went to sleep that night, and he started Googling. He started Googling different areas in Florida. And then he said he stumbled across St. Johns County and saw that they had the best school district in Florida.
Yes.
And then by finding St. Johns County, found Nocatee. And by the time I woke up in the morning, he had a rendering of a house that we could build that our mortgage would be less than what we were paying for rent in Hoboken.
Right.
And he showed me this beautiful house and he was like, we could build this.
Mm-hmm.
And it must have just been meant to be. That's the only way I can describe it, because it just organically snowballed. Before I knew it, we had booked flights. We were looking at a piece of dirt, and I was like,
in Nocatee.
Yeah. And I was like, this is a great idea. Like, but also keep in mind, I had like clawed and hustled my way to make my business what it was in Hoboken. I was at that time in 2020, I had been voted Hoboken's best personal trainer 3 years in a row.
Wow.
So I had a clientele that was big and solid, and they weren't going anywhere. But by then we had already been training virtually for like 9 months, you know? And, and I said to Drew, I was like, I think we could do this, and they're not going anywhere.
Right. They'll stay virtual, most of them.
Yeah. And then his business, he works in medical device sales. So he was the Northeast regional manager for a medical device company, and he started looking at Southeast regional manager positions. And he ended up getting the job. I spoke to my clients. They're like, we're not going anywhere.
Right.
And I feel bad because COVID was such a horrible thing for so many business orders, especially if you had a brick and mortar.
Yep, I did.
In the fitness industry, yeah.
I had a training studio in St. John's.
Yeah.
Right. But I was already doing a lot of virtual stuff. I had already built an online membership.
There you go.
If you're interested in that, just reach out to me. Anybody listening or watching, that's thriving now.
Yeah.
Like that's most of my business, the online video membership. And I have a 6-in-1, almost fully organic supplement. So I used to do everything in person only.
Yeah.
Now 98% of what I do is all virtual, online, remote. So I had the place. I closed shortly after COVID. Like it was like people were just scared to even come back, especially our demographic. So we went through all that as well. But a quick aside, you mentioned that you guys. Drew started doing the research and he saw that St. John's had the best schools in Florida. When I mentioned earlier, I spent the core of my years here in St. John's because that's where I had the kids all going to school. Right? It was all obvious. Like, and then out here to the beach, of course, now that they're all done.
Yeah.
So go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I just...
So you guys found the place in Nocatee. Never heard of it before.
We literally looked at a piece of dirt.
Right.
And we're like, we're going to build a house. We built it from Hoboken.
Yeah.
I don't think we were really in one single design meeting.
Do you guys like it? It's awesome.
We love it.
I think Nocatee's awesome.
We love it.
Yeah.
Love it. It was great. I mean, if it hadn't been for COVID... I wouldn't be here. There's no way.
Right.
You can't.
You guys wouldn't have been pushed to like think outside the box. And let's go do this.
I would have never have left my clientele.
Right.
And I would have never have said to them, "Hey guys, I'm going to train you on the computer." Okay.
Yeah,
they would have been like, "What?"
Right. So there's so much goodness that did come out of that experience because everybody was in the same boat.
Right.
It's like you can't do anything. You have to figure out another way.
Right.
Right. And so even though we had the studio going, we can't train any classes. We couldn't train any one-on-one. I was firing up my live feeds. I was doing lives. So were some of my coaches. We would record them. And those are still in my membership because some people said, this is awesome. Like, can you save this?
Yeah.
I want to do this again. So some of those sessions from COVID are actually in the video membership. Great. And what it did was it forced people to have only one choice.
Right.
You're not going anywhere.
Right.
If you want to train, you're doing it at home via video, virtually.
Right.
And some people realized, wow, this is convenient, and I'm getting the results.
Right. Yeah.
And so
you don't need a big fancy gym.
Right. And it's a little cheaper, and I don't have to travel, and it's lighter on my schedule.
Right.
Sign me up for this.
Right.
So that was a trigger for my business basically quadrupling online as a result. And that has just kept going. It didn't come down after COVID. It's maintained and it's still slowly growing because other people are telling others, no, you got to try this. Like we went through the COVID experience. It's been awesome. And we're just staying with it because it works.
Right. Yeah.
So you get it.
Totally. I was able to pretty much double the amount of clients I can train in a day because when I was in New York and New Jersey, I was going to my clients. And I was on an electric bike flying. You would see me in every direction, just going. And if you live in that area, most of the buildings either have a residential gym, and I would go there and train out of their residential gym, or a lot of my clients lived in townhomes, and I would bring everything to them and train them there. But when you can just stack them back to back,
that's all I used to do.
Help a lot more people.
Westchester, Greenwich, Connecticut, like Scarsdale, Rye, Larchmont.
Yeah.
I was in my car, like stacking miles, like all day from 5 a.m. to like
down
9:30.
to the minute. Yes.
Right. It was brutal. It was a blessing. Like I had so many incredible clients, never had a shortage, met so many incredible people, helped a lot of people, which is really what drives people like us. But it was life killing. Like it was literally, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
So again, COVID was a blessing in certain ways to like be a catalyst for changing people's mental paradigms on how they get coached and guided for fitness. All right, this is good stuff. All right, so let's flip back to you personally. Vegetarian athlete is something that's on your social media profile. Have you always been vegetarian? Was it recent? Like, give us the scoop.
Yeah, so I've been a vegetarian for 32 years now.
Is Drew vegetarian?
No.
Okay.
So I became a vegetarian when I was 12, and I don't remember this. My mom tells the story. She said, I came home from school one day. She was cooking shepherd's pie and real snotty because I was 12 years old. I was like, I'm not eating that anymore. And she thought it was a phase. And literally from that day forward, 32 years later, I haven't eaten meat. But I do remember, like, I was a sensitive kid in that, like, I remember opening the fridge and you know how like chicken has like its skin on it and it has all the bumps.
Right.
Well, to me, those were goosebumps and it looked no different than my skin. And then like, you know, my parents would have like hamburger in there and I would ask my mom, like, what is that red stuff? And she'd say it's juice. And I'm like, well, it looks like blood. And she's like, well, it's juice. And I'm like, So I questioned things a lot, you know? And I think that's what kind of just started it. But it was just an easy thing for me. It wasn't like I ever missed it or...
Okay, so this is good. Like a lot of people are going to be really interested in this. Were you vegetarian through college when you got into your training thing and this discovery of like fitness competitor bodybuilding?
I haven't eaten a bite of meat since I was 12 years old.
Okay, so give us the scoop on where you derive your protein from.
Yeah, so I'm not a vegan. So although I don't eat much dairy, but I do eat eggs. I do take supplements. I use plant-based protein. I use a grass-fed whey protein, collagen. And I think people very easily forget that very few foods don't have protein in them.
Right.
Almost everything has protein in it, you know?
Different amounts.
Yeah. Right. So if you're eating a very balanced diet of, you know, beans, legumes, and all the vegetables. Which
I'm assuming you do. Nuts, seeds.
Everything.
Okay.
Right. Then I'm getting easily over 100 grams of protein every day.
Yeah, I get it. I went through a phase where I don't want to say plant-based, I was plant-only for a while, right? And all these things we just listed was what I was eating. But I had actually cut out eggs. I wanted to see, like, what would happen if I just go plant-only?
Yep.
Like, so that I could share that with people. They can see.
Yeah, I went vegan for 3 years or 4 years.
Okay.
But yeah.
And it was easy. Much easier than people make it out to be. All my health numbers stayed good. Some of them got a little better. But even in the last few years, since I brought back in animal proteins, mostly fish, I would say like most of the animal protein I eat is, I would say maybe 80% fish, maybe 20% all the other animals.
Right.
But I'm still plant-based. Like if you look at my nutrition, the bottom of the pyramid is like veggies, salads, fruits. Then you go up a layer, it's like nuts, seeds, beans, you know, your fibrous stuff in there. Then I have some healthy carbs, which could be, I love steel cut oats. Like I eat steel cut oats almost every day at some point. Sweet potatoes, some healthy breads like the Ezekiel breads. And then the top is my protein.
Right.
So
it's like a reverse pyramid.
Right, exactly. And so, being plant-based is very, very close to, like, I would say vegetarian. You're just adding a little bit of healthy, whether it's fish or small doses of animal protein. It's very different than people who eat most of their calories from meats and heavy carbs.
Yeah.
Like, where's all your other stuff? Like
Right.
your produce, your salads, your veggies, your fruits. Like, there's a big difference in there. And the subtleties are where a lot of, like, our mass markets get confused, like how to really just simply piece this together so that it's not a diet.
Right.
It's a principle.
Right.
And if you're following a principles-based approach to how you eat, you could do it anywhere. You could do it on vacation. You could do it at your in-laws' house.
Yeah.
You could do it at a restaurant.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So was anybody surprised that you were able to build muscle when you went through that college transition?
No,
and was your trainer coach trying to get you to eat any animal proteins?
He knows me. He was like, I'm not even going to bother with her. There's no way.
So you gained like 25 pounds of muscle in your training transition while being vegetarian. And that's without animal protein.
Yeah. I mean, I literally laugh when, people talk to huge dudes talk down to people that are vegans or vegetarians. I was like, I can step on stage right next to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, like, again, that's, how people have their mindsets and like they've been programmed and whatever. Everybody's different. I get that. We have different metabolisms, different physiological, like, processes. But for the most part, a lot of us are very similar.
Yeah.
And so even when I was doing plant only, I would flip on Facebook Live or TikTok or whatever, and I'd have my shirt off and I'm showing I'm training and I'm just going to turn on the cam. And then so, like, guys would stop and say, man, I see you got a white beard, but you're in great shape. How many grams of protein do you get in? And I'm like, you'll be surprised, but, like, go to my blog and, let me know you want to know about the protein, and you'll see that I'm plant only right now. And like, what do you mean you're plant only? How can you have that kind of muscle? And I'm not huge. Like, I'm 5'1.5" maybe. Right now, like 128 pounds. On cam, maybe I look a little bigger, but still, like, it is me. That's me.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need lots and lots of protein, number one, if you're natural and you're training properly.
Yeah.
And all your other support foods are, like, in a good zone. Right. So you get so many clients who come to us confused. I'm sure you get this. Like, they come with this whole confused paradigm, right? Needing somebody to help clarify, like, clear out the BS, give them the right info, right? And protein is one of these big things they're all so confused about. Like, the average 63-year-old woman who's 146 pounds doesn't need to be eating 200 grams of protein.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's like,
very few people need 200 grams.
But some of them think that, like, I need
right.
lots and lots of protein to burn fat and to build my muscle. No, you need everything to be in a nice balanced zone, and you have to be training properly and consistently.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I see are people misjudging what they're eating and the amount of calories that they're eating.
Big time.
So I'll say to them, take me through a typical day. And what I hear sounds great. And then I'm like, okay, I want you to keep in my Fitness Pal every single thing that goes into your mouth.
Same here.
And I'll even say beforehand, like, give me a guess where you think your calories are around. And I've heard like 1,300. I'm like, wow, okay, that's low. Okay. And then I'll get it, and it's 2,800, 3,300.
Right. So this is common because I see this a lot.
Yeah.
When I'm coaching people remotely, I do the same thing. We do like an initial, give me an idea, like verbally, right?
Yeah.
And then I have them keep a 1-week log of everything. And I look at it, I'm like, this isn't what you were telling me on the call. I'm like, yeah, well, that's like, wow. Like, even I was surprised writing this all down for you. Like, I'm not really thinking about all this during the day, but like, looking at it, it's like, wow, okay, I see we got work to do.
Right.
Right. And a lot of people are experiencing this. They're just not aware of it because they haven't done the intervention yet of, like, having to be accountable to somebody else, making them record it so that both of you can see it. And now we have some ideas of maybe part of the problem that we
Right.
have to readjust and
Yeah.
fix to start making that progress.
Yeah.
Very common.
Yeah. I also see a lot of just not eating,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and then having one big meal,
Mm-hmm.
not drinking your water,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. This is good. So on that note, do you have like a typical client that is drawn to you or that you find yourself working with, like demographically?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, I've worked with men and women of all ages. I think my youngest client was a 12-year-old girl in Hoboken. Her mom hired me because she wanted to work out with her mom, but she didn't want her mom to tell her what to do. You know what I mean? Um, and then my oldest client, I will never forget him. I loved him. His name was Don. He was 73 years old. He was one of my very first clients ever. And he came into our gym just like hunched over. Oh, that'd be so cool if he saw this. I would love to know what he's up to. But I think he joined the gym because his wife had passed away.
Okay.
And he was lonely, you know. And he ended up becoming my client. And just the transformation, he literally became a different person.
On all levels, like
on
strength
all
wise,
levels, yeah,
posture, energy, attitude,
everything.
All right, so this is really good here. 73, and I've had people in their 80s experience this too. I've trained some older folks over the years. Same thing can happen. If you're alive, you've got a chance to make some radical changes, but you have to understand that you can't go beast mode.
Yeah.
It's got to be done with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yep.
Right. And it's got to be a gradual process of rebuilding, correcting, and continuing to build on the foundation you've set in the early stages.
Yeah.
So people, even in your 70s or 80s, it's not too late.
No, it's
as
never
long
too
as
late.
you do things right.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Right.
he's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, he was great. But I guess I have worked with every type of person you could think of. But really, when I was in New York and Hoboken, I think because I was the same demographic then, I had just had our son, and a huge, my almost my entire clientele were new moms. I mean, I remember changing diapers during sessions just so moms can get in their workout, you know?
Understood.
But funny, I kind of feel like my clients have aged with me. A lot of the women that I train now are perimenopausal and menopausal and going through this, which I feel like needs to be talked about more. It makes me so angry how little this is spoken about and how doctors are so dismissive. But that has become a big demographic that I've really started to work with, because your body goes through crazy changes. Even when you haven't made any changes to your eating, you haven't made any changes to your exercise plan, and all of a sudden your body starts to change and it feels like very out of control.
Oh yeah. So the studio I had in St. John's, that was the second studio, it was women only. All we did. And most of them were either just starting menopause in it or toward the tail end of it.
Yeah.
So I have a huge female following. I'm starting to get more men naturally because I'm a guy putting my stuff out there, and I am in the second half of life technically. But I know a lot of women are tuning in right now. What would you say to the woman who is in menopause, like she's hating it, she's got all the stuff going on that happens, you've got clients like that. What are your best tips for women in it who are like looking toward the future, like wondering, does this get better and how can I help it now?
Oh my God, yes. I can speak from firsthand. So I'm 43, which is considered young to be, perimenopausal, but my mom was even younger than that. And my best piece of advice is you're not crazy and find a doctor who will listen to you, because I was dismissed so many times, especially because I was 40 when I went to my doctor for the first time and I said, I'm soaking the bed.
For the first time about the menopause thing. Okay.
I was 40 years old. It was right when we moved here. And I said, I'm waking up in the middle of the night 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night, soaking wet. I'd have to leave my bed, go to the guest bedroom. I'd soak through that bed. I'd go to the next guest bedroom, soak through that bed. I'm like, this isn't right. And I've always been very in touch with my body. I know when something's off. And he was like, well, do you still get your period? I said, yeah. He goes, well, then you're not perimenopausal. I mean, I wanted to choke him. But Find somebody who will listen to you. I ended up finding a hormone specialist, this woman who I had a full blood work done. And yeah, sure enough, my hormones were all over the place. My testosterone was at 7. She's like, no wonder you want to take, I couldn't get through a day. I had to take naps in the middle of the day.
Was that all menopause related?
Yeah. Find a doctor who will listen to you.
Was she able to help you?
She was amazing. Yeah. I think hormone replacement therapy needs to be spoken about to women the way it's spoken to for men.
Was HRT what actually helped?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ended up, she recommended, it's called BioT. So what it is, it's a little pellet that's bioidentical to testosterone. Right. So when she did my levels, I was at 7, which is nothing. And she's like, no wonder you're so tired all the time. You have no energy. Like, I couldn't get through the night. If you have low testosterone, that's a sign of, night sweats are a sign of low testosterone. So I started doing pellet therapy with her. And I mean, I literally feel like a different person. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody.
Right. But this could, it's for a lot of women
feel
in
like
that situation.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but
right.
a good enough amount where this is common treatment.
Right. And the conversation should be easier to have with your doctor than it is. When men go to their doctor and say, I'm really tired, I have no sex drive, blah, blah, blah. They're so quick to write a prescription for testosterone, but women can go in with the same problems and you're dismissed. So be your best advocate for yourself. That's my best piece of advice.
How did you find that new doctor back then?
My neighbor.
So this was only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had just moved here. And my neighbor, I was complaining to her. I'm like, God, her name's Gretchen. I was like, Gretchen, I don't know what is wrong. I can't get through my day without taking a nap.
Was this down here? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm so tired. I don't know what is wrong with me. And she was like, I was feeling the same way. She was the same age as me. She's like, you have to go meet this woman. At least go get your blood work done and see what she says. So I'm so happy that I had that conversation.
Do you still see that doctor down here?
Yep. Yeah.
What's the doctor's name?
Dr. Elizabeth Bagan. She's with Precision Medicine. Yeah. So every is every 3 months or every 4 months? I think it's every 4 months. I get a pellet and I feel like a new person. Nice. Awesome. I'd say my other biggest piece of advice, women like who are perimenopausal, is if you aren't already weight training, start weight training.
Right.
The more muscle.
To be specific, resistance training is actually what we're talking about.
Right.
Because lifting weights, a lot of people who are like not actually in this realm, like they'll say, oh, we got to lift weights.
Right.
So
not necessarily.
That's one modality.
Right.
So the resistance training, obviously we know like all the physiological benefits of that.
Yeah.
It helps menopause.
Oh my God, tenfold. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, it's like one of the easiest things you can start doing like today is just do a very basic resistance routine. Like
100%.
You can just do body weight at home or like good resistance bands.
Yeah.
As long as the program is right, you're going to get the effect you're looking for. Okay, so beyond resistance training, what else would you say for like a perimenopausal woman who's kind of like a little lost, hasn't been into fitness for most of her life, if not any of it? The thought of like making fitness part of your treatment program, it's kind of like, it's scary because like even a woman who has no issues and she's thinking about starting a fitness program, that's kind of like a little scary. It's a scary realm if you don't have the right guidance. Yeah. Right. So for the perimenopausal woman who like, she wants help now, right? Because that's how bad things are.
Right.
What would you say in addition to fitness training, proper fitness training, what else could they do or should they consider beyond that? Possibly finding a right physician who's well-versed in that. What would you say nutritionally is something that they should look at or possibly implement?
I mean, you really need to, obviously we have to prioritize your vegetables, your fruits, your proteins. You know, I think the more tired you are, and like when you're perimenopausal, you feel tired a lot, is when you're craving like those fast processed carbs. Prioritizing your sleep.
Okay, this is good. So what you just said is like, it's subtle, but it's super important. those fast processed carbs.
They give you that little quick fix and you feel better
so like,
for a second.
Here's what we're talking about. Like, this is really important because a lot of people say, oh, I'm cutting carbs. Like, well, why are you cutting carbs?
Right.
I need to drop weight. We're going on vacation, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Wedding's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you have to like change your carbs and watch the amount.
Right.
You're not supposed to be like, well, what do you mean when you're going to drop carbs? Oh, I'm just not going to get that big cinnamon roll at Starbucks every afternoon, or I'm not going to get that big muffin. Like, okay, so you're just going to stop eating carbs.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, as you know, you have to change the carb you're eating,
right,
and the amount.
Not all carbs are made
right.
the same.
Walking into your favorite coffee shop or bakery, or getting something out of the store that you're going to pop in the microwave or whatever. Like, yeah, that's a bad carb.
Right.
It's bad by nature, and it's also the amount you're eating is probably 3 or 4 times the amount you actually need.
Right.
But changing that carb to what's made for the human body by nature, by divine design, in an amount that is favorable for your metabolism and your physiological needs, combined with other good stuff, then gives your body and brain the things it needs to give you the energy, the outcome, the look,
right,
maybe the tone, the better body composition that you need. So that as subtle as that was, is how important it is for the average person to start realizing, oh, a carb is not a carb. There are different carbs in different amounts, and I need to wrap my head around that concept and get proper guidance to kind of learn these things so that I could focus on making the right choices, doing the right food shop. And we're not saying you can't go to Starbucks and get good stuff, or you can't go to your favorite coffee shop or restaurant. It's a matter of knowing what's in there and then being able to make the right choices in that place, because you can easily go in and make the wrong choices.
Yeah.
But you can also, with the right knowledge, go in there and make good choices and get decent stuff, even when you're away from home.
Yeah. I think, there's plenty of people who maybe don't know that, but I think there's also plenty of women. I mean, because I can speak from experience, I certainly know what I should be eating and shouldn't be eating. But when you're going through peri-menopause and you're not sleeping because you're soaking the bed every single night, you're exhausted, your workouts are crap, if you even are working out, because you're so tired.
Right.
Those fast acting processed carbs give you that little jolt, and that it's
pleasure.
Easy and pleasure.
Like, okay, everything else sucks. I'll get pleasure from eating this ice cream or chocolate.
Yeah. I mean, I was guilty of it myself. I found myself like eating things that I would never really think about. But when you feel that bad, it's easier to make those bad decisions, you know?
Right. So when you start the fitness, when you start getting treated properly by a physician who knows what they're doing,
it changes
then
everything.
It makes it easier for you to start eating properly.
It makes it easier just to make better decisions.
Right. Right. Better mindset.
Right.
Better attitude.
Yeah.
Better clarity. All right. Ladies, watch this again and write those down.
Yes.
Because that's what you need. There's no other secret. There's no crazy cure out there. There's no like African herb that's gonna like be the thing. Like, we just gave you the real deal stuff that has to be what you do first.
Yes.
Maybe some other things can help out there, but we just gave you the answers to implement. If you're not implementing them, the answers aren't going to come from someplace else.
And educate yourself. One of the best people you can listen to is Dr. Marie Claire. There's an E on the end of Claire on Instagram. She is like paving the way for women's health in menopause right now, and just gives some amazing advice. She is the real deal.
Dr. Marie Claire. All right. So a lot of these things we're mentioning, I'm going to share links in the show notes. So make sure you're looking below the video for the show notes, the links. And if you're listening on audio instead of video, make sure you come to midlifemusclepodcast.com, where the videos are, and the show notes underneath each video with the links that we're mentioning in each episode. All right. I know we got to stay on schedule here because you got to pick up your son soon. So we're gonna crank it up here and pick up the speed. Have you ever had any kind of injury or setback in adulthood that took you off course, or you needed to like really address for a while?
Yeah. I had a really bad car accident. What
year?
That was 2010. 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were like 30-ish?
Yeah.
Right?
No, wait, it was longer than that. No, because I would have been 33. That's when I had cash. No, it was before that.
Late 20s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was sitting at a stoplight. There was a car in front of me, and long story short, there was a tractor trailer who the driver told the police officer that he was distracted by something on his dashboard. I think he was texting. I don't know. But he hit me going what they think was like at least 55 miles an hour, and I was at a dead stop. So I hit the person in front of me. My front end went up. He went into me and over me, and my airbag never deployed. So these front 4 teeth cracked. There was an impression of my teeth on my steering wheel, and bulging discs, herniated discs.
Right.
My neck was all jacked up, my hip. But I walked away from it, really. And a couple of days later, I went to go get my things out of the car. Like they use like the jaws of light, the big thing to get me out. And I went to go get my things out of the car at the junkyard, and the guy that had towed my car was there, and he's like, "Are you the girl that was in that car?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "I can't believe you're walking." He told me they had to jack the tractor trailer up to pull my car out from underneath it. Like it was that bad.
God was watching you, girl.
Yeah. So
big time.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Wow.
So, but that actually, I feel like was a blessing because I had never done yoga before that.
Okay.
And I was doing everything. I had epidural injections. They weren't helping. I was going to physical therapy. I was seeing chiropractors. Nothing was helping. But when I did yoga, I felt better. So I just started doing it more and more and more. And I fell in love with it. And like, to make a really long story short, I ended up going to Nosara, Costa Rica, and studied under Rebecca Kovacs and Ashley Ledman, who Rebecca was a assistant to Dharma Mitra. If you know anything about yoga, this is like, Dharma is like the man. And I got my yoga teacher certification through them, but I don't think I would have ever even tried yoga. I was like a bodybuilder,
right? Right. Understood. All right.
Yeah,
so
it was a blessing, really.
And so you're good since then? Like,
yeah.
Nothing bothers you in your training? And...
I mean, typical like aches
typical
and pains every
middle-aged
now
stuff.
and then. But
yeah. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
I get it. Totally.
It was kind of crazy because Rolando and I joke about how our friendship has become full circle. When he met me, I was skinny fat, and he opened my eyes to the world of like bodybuilding.
Right.
And then when I was in Nosara, I was posting pictures and I was still jacked and shredded. And he was like, "Girl, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing yoga 8 hours a day." He was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." I'm like, "You got to try this. It'll make you a better bodybuilder."
Right.
And it came full circle. He ended up going to Thailand. I think it was Thailand, and getting his yoga certification. And now thanks me for like opening up his eyes to that.
So this highlights something very important for, again, midlife muscle. We need mobility.
Yes.
Like, training is great, having a nice physique. And I always emphasize, you want to make sure your internal numbers are the focus of your efforts, and the outside of your body is going to look the way you want it if you're taking care of the inside properly. Mobility has to be included as part of your training. I stretch every day. Sometimes I put the mat right down here. I have an exercise ball upstairs. I flex, like, see the mat right there?
Yeah.
I stretch every day.
Yeah.
There's not, like, it feels awesome, number one, and like doing everything just feels better, right? So mobility. Yoga is one modality for mobility.
Yeah.
I call it, what I do, blue collar stretching. That's all it is. It's like straightforward, gentle stretching, holding, full body stuff. But I'm saying this to emphasize, yoga is a modality for mobility. Whether you choose yoga or my blue collar stretching or something else, make sure you're including it on some level. And it doesn't have to be every single day, because people who do it 0 times a week, if you do it 3 or 4 times a week properly, you're going to see how much you get out of it.
Yeah.
Makes your training better, makes getting out of bed in the morning better, makes any activity you do better. It energizes you.
Your mindset.
Everything. It helps you avoid injuries, helps you play better golf, be a better fisherman, be a better gardener,
Yeah.
whatever. So thank you for putting the emphasis on the mobility through yoga. That's a big, huge setback right there. And we're lucky to have you still alive.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, amen. All right, cool. So so we did your nutrition. Let's do a quick rundown of your supplement list without naming brand names. Like we spoke a little bit about it. So let's go.
So I take collagen in my coffee every morning, B12, D3 with K2, hyaluronic acid, magnesium thionate. I'm forgetting.
Do you take a multivitamin mineral?
A multivitamin. Yep.
So it's like full spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So speaking of multivitamin, multi-mineral, those of you who posted the questions after the last episode, the Brain Belly Body Elixir Mixer has that as the foundation. It's a fermented food-based multivitamin, multi-mineral spectrum. And everything else added to this that makes it the 6-in-1 formula is added on top of that fermented food matrix that creates the multivitamin, multi-mineral base for what I suggest most, if not all, middle-aged active people, not sedentary, right? Because if you're sedentary, there's nothing to like supplement for. You're not putting out the energy. You're not putting out the effort. You're not using your lean tissue the way it's supposed to be used. So don't even bother. But active people, doesn't matter if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you need our philosophy, my philosophy is that you need to be supplementing to help fuel that output, the extra output. Because our nutrition, as you know, like we're busy. We got, a house to run. We got kids to raise. We got pups to take care of, right? And then we got to get to training. And, like as much as we try to have a really good nutrition intake, it's not always perfect.
Right.
Now, so these supplements you're talking about, the Brain Belly Body Elixir Mixer that I created, it's like what I call to fill those gaps and to even out those crazy days where it's not going to be perfect. So why not take your supplements to help make it closer to perfect?
Yeah.
Right. Again, if you're active, not sedentary. All right. This is good stuff.
Oh,
so,
and creatine.
Creatine. Amen.
Creatine. Menopausal woman, you should be taking creatine.
Yeah,
Everybody
we're going to talk more about
creatine.
that. This is important.
Yeah. We're
going to talk more about that on a future episode. If not this podcast, on the Fitness Truth podcast. I've got another podcast. It's like it's a different style, different format. I don't do it as often as this one, but like I could take creatine and then just do like a one-off episode, me talking to the camera and like doing a search on the laptop to show people studies.
Yeah, creatine.
So we will talk about creatine, ladies and guys. We will be talking about creatine.
Yeah.
And
not just for muscle.
No, not just for muscle at all. All right, so that's your supplement rundown. Yep. All right, so we did that. Awesome. Did your big personal injury setback. Okay, you ready to nominate? Bring me a question and share your either social or website. All right, who are you going to nominate?
All right, I'm going to nominate my husband.
Yeah, that's Drew, right?
Drew, yep, Drew Adonisio.
Is he Italian?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, with that last name for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be great to get him in here. His schedule is bananas, but he has a cool story.
How old is Drew?
Drew's 45.
Okay. How'd you guys meet?
We met on Match.com.
Seriously?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I was so reluctant to go on an online dating site, and one of my friends just kind of pushed me to do it. I went on 3 dates. They were terrible. He was my fourth, and I remember saying to my best friend that night, I was like, this is it.
Really?
If this is good, cool. If not, I'm deleting this damn profile. And we ended up like shutting down the restaurant. I deleted my profile on the way home that night, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
But he has a cool story. People look at him and think he's like an NFL player, but
all
nope.
Right. Speaking of ex-NFL player, next week, Kyle Brady is going to be my guest. Have you met Kyle in the gym?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Great guy. Big guy.
Yeah.
He's so nice.
Yeah, he's so nice.
So he and I it's a funny story how we started talking. I'm not a huge football fan, but I knew like when I saw him, like he's probably a pro football player, probably used to play for the Jags since he still lives around here.
Yeah.
He and I started talking about our ankles.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's like, because we saw neither of us have hair around. See how my hair is missing?
Yeah.
I used to have to tape up
Tape
my
them all the
ankles in
time.
sports.
Yep.
And him too. He's like, did you have problem ankles when you were younger? I was like, yeah,
That's so
I know
funny.
you get it. So
Yeah.
we were laughing, and then we started talking. So yeah, he's up next week. He's going to be
Oh, that's
on.
awesome.
Yeah. So Drew's, I'm assuming Drew's into fitness then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you'll have to hook us up. I will work to get him, like, I'll make it a convenient time. And
Yeah.
get him over here. That'll be awesome. Okay. So if you think of anybody else, like in your travels, like, oh, I should nominate this person, like, especially if they live locally.
Yeah.
Like if they'd be a good story,
Uh-huh.
like you can nominate more than one
All
person.
right, great.
Like,
Yeah.
even if it's 2 weeks from now. Oh, I just thought of somebody, like this person needs to come on, like
Yeah.
connect us.
There's so many people I talk to in the gym and I don't know their name.
Understood. But even
But
if
yeah,
like it's a
I'll let
client
you
in
know for
Nocatee or
Yeah.
like whatever, please keep that in mind.
Totally.
All right. What's your big question for me?
All right. I want to know what made you, well, you said you have 2 podcasts, but what made you want to start a podcast, and what made you, did most of the people that you find, did they go to Jack's gym?
So initially, yes.
Uh-huh.
But like in asking people to nominate somebody,
It's spread it out.
right? Like Drew doesn't go to the gym
Right.
Jacks, right?
No, he does.
He does.
But he
Okay.
goes in the morning. You guys probably, he goes early.
Okay. So we may have crossed paths because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm in there a little early, but not very early.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes people will nominate someone who doesn't go to the gym Jacks,
Uh-huh.
right? So, and then I'll meet people like out walking Yanko, like I realize, oh, this person's got a great story, and they're 50 or 60 or whatever, and they're still getting after it
Uh-huh.
in their own smart way.
Yeah.
And I'll ask them, would you like to come on the podcast? All right, so I have a few people lined up for the next few months, just from the local neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Just great stories that need to be shared. And so the first part of your question was what made me
Yeah.
want to start a podcast. As you can tell, like I'm very interested in people.
Yeah.
Like I want to know your story, like
Yeah.
genuinely, like I'm just interested in you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with a lot of people.
Right.
And so what better format for us to have a conversation? We get to know each other. I get to ask you questions. You get to share your story, and we're recording it.
Yeah.
And other people get to see this maybe this weekend or a year from now when they come across this episode.
Right.
And the story still positively impacts them when they hear what you've been through, when they hear that you used to be skinny fat, when they hear you had a bad car accident that you may not have walked away from,
Yeah.
if not for Grace, and menopause. How did she get through it?
Mhm.
What am I going to hear that might help me now that I didn't know?
Yeah.
Right. So think about everything we shared, right?
Yeah.
You and I are closer now. We
Mhm.
know more about each other, right? Somebody gets to benefit by eavesdropping, or a lot of people get to benefit by eavesdropping.
Yeah.
And when I put this stuff out there, people discover me.
I love it.
Oh, look at this guy. This is a great little format. Like,
Right.
who is he? Like, what has he got? Oh, he's got a fitness membership. He's got this great organic supplement that he sells. Like, let's go look at all that stuff.
Yeah.
And naturally, my business grows because of people's curiosity, and they see I'm genuine.
Yeah.
Like this is the focus, right? And they get a lot out of this.
Yeah.
Right. And I got plenty of free stuff on the internet. Like I have success stories, like testimonials
Mm-hmm.
from people who've just used my free stuff
Oh, that's
on
awesome.
the internet, and they'll
Yeah.
email us, say, hey, I just want you to know I found your free PDF or your free, mini video series, and I've been doing it faithfully. And I got to say, out of everything I've ever tried, this has given me the best results. I would like to join your membership now because I know
That's
this is the
awesome.
real deal, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, like I love getting to know people. Like I'm curious about your life,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a great venue to be able to do that,
Yeah, that's great.
right?
Yeah, I love it.
So does
Love
that
it.
help? Is that
Yeah,
a good answer?
I love it.
Thank you. And so starting this one specifically, even though I have the Fitness Truth podcast, I told this in the episode with Drew, the manager of
Oh, yeah.
the Gym Jacks,
Mm-hmm.
because he asked a question.
Oh.
And basically, this was divine guidance. Like when I started training there to help a friend, I was already training at home. I have a full gym. I have a gym unit I invented. It's upstairs. And I've been training at home. Like you can see my TikTok videos. Like there's the gym unit that I'm using. And when I started going to the Gym Jacks, it wasn't long before I met Dexter. So we'd start talking and I'm like, hey, you got to start a podcast, man. Like you got the perfect history.
Yeah.
And you're still in business. Like you should be doing a podcast. He's like, yeah, I'm so busy. And then one day, like the name came to me, Midlife Muscle. I said, it should be named Midlife Muscle. He's like, that's good. I said, it's so good. If you don't do it,
I'm going to do it.
Do
oh,
it.
I love it.
So 2 or 3 weeks went by.
Yeah.
And like God, again, like I'm a believer. And so like God will like subtly put these nudges on me and like make me see and hear things that are like the message to keep going this way. And this was that. Like it was like this came to me and I wasn't even thinking about it.
Oh,
like
so
I wasn't even brainstorming the name. It's like Midlife Muscle just comes out of nowhere. That's divine inspiration.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like, all right, like and I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. The name is great.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to do it.
It is a great
like,
name. I love it.
And like, so everything came together. Like you sit down, you interview people, obviously local, you share their stories, and those stories are actually what is going to help other people tuning into that episode, whether it's now, 2 years from now, whenever.
Yeah.
And so that's what made me start this one. The other one is actually, it's either me doing monologues or me doing Zoom video interviews with various people. Some of them are my clients who want to share their success story. And so we will like basically have a conversation on Zoom that I record on video, taking them through their before scenario, their during scenario of me coaching them, and their after scenario of how they are now.
Yeah.
Like, they got rid of their cellulite. Women use this word cellulite. They got rid of their belly pooch. They're sleeping better. Their relationships better. Their intimate times are better. The example they're setting for their kids is better. Like all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we tell the full story in a conversational interview format, and I share those as the Fitness Truth podcast.
And it helps other people. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good question.
Oh,
great question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was there a part that I missed there?
No, that was it.
Awesome. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So what would you like to share so people can come find you, follow you, see what you're up to,
sure.
like follow your links if you want to? What's the best way?
Well, I have my website is kwfitness.com.
kwfitness.com.
I'm on Instagram as kwfitnessfl.
That's Instagram. KW for Kalene Walsh, kwfitness.com. kwfitnessfl is your handle on Instagram.
Yep.
It's got a cool Instagram channel, and they could find other links of yours through your bio, right?
Yeah, you'll see on my bio, we didn't really touch on this, but I developed an app last year. There's only so many hours in a day, and I'm booked right now, and I wanted to find a way to help other people.
Right.
And not everybody can afford personal training.
Understood.
So yeah, I developed an app. There are like all my own workouts. I have at home, in the gym. There's modifications for everybody. You do not need to look like a bodybuilder to do this.
Right.
And that can be found at kwfitness.app.
Perfect. kwfitness.app. Also linked to via your Instagram, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Kalene.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Me too.
An awesome interview. It exceeded my expectations on what we were going to. I had no idea about the menopause stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that alone is going to be like
I want
piece
to
for
talk
a lot
about
of
it.
women.
I want people to start talking about it. Yeah.
That's big.
100% of women are going to go through it.
Yep. Big stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So as always, leave your comments below. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you want to hear more about. Make sure you tune in for all the upcoming guests. Next week is, again, Kyle Brady, I think he played for at least 10 years in the NFL. Monster of a man, but super, super nice guy, family guy, still taking care of himself in his 50s. And that's really what it's going to be about. It's not about the NFL stuff.
Right.
It's about this former NFL player who still puts the time, energy, and effort to take care of himself for the right reasons.
Yes.
That's really going to be the focus of the story, and he's going to share some gems, I'm sure. All right, so peace and much love. We'll see you on the next episode.
Awesome.